increasingly, the American dream has become the American dream instead of the American dream of the last 200 years pre-1980. It's become the American dream of the post-1980, the post-Reagan Revolution American dream, which is hitting the lottery, basically. And the working people in this country have just been wiped out. I mean, we could be flying high with the Jetsons, but instead we're stuck hoofing it with the Flintstones. Back in 1966, Time magazine published an article that looked ahead toward the future and discussed what the rises in technology and automation and computers and all. What's all this stuff going to mean for working class Americans? I mean, from the time of George Washington until the presidency of Ronald Reagan, with a few blips for wars, as American workers became more productive, their wages went up or their working hours went down, or both. We went from 60-hour work weeks and poverty wages in the early 19th century to the 50-hour work week at the turn of the 20th century with better wages to solidly middle-class wages and a 40-hour work week by the 1950s. Whether it was the steam revolution of the early 19th century, the industrial revolution of the late 19th century, or the machine revolution of the early 20th century, as workers were able to make more things, in other words, be more productive, and create greater profits for their companies using fewer man hours or woman hours, fewer labor hours, the workers shared in the prosperity that was produced by their increased productivity. So much so that Time magazine simply assumed that from 1966 to the year 2000, as computer and advanced mechanization made American workers more productive, that our wages would go up and our work week would go down. This article in Time magazine back in 1966, let's step into the Wayback Machine here. The author of this article in 1966, looking out almost 40 years, 34 years, looking out at the year 2000, they said, and I quote, "By 2000, the machines will be producing so much that everyone in the U.S. will in effect be independently wealthy. With government benefits, even non-working families will have, by one estimate, an annual income of $30,000 to $40,000. How to use leisure meaningfully will be a major problem." That's $30,000 to $40,000 in 1966 dollars. That's like $215,000 to $288,000 in today's dollars. And it wasn't just Time magazine predicting such a luxurious future for America. Back in the 60s, it was a commonly held belief that the rise, and our cartoons reflected it, the Jetsons, that the rise of technology and automation would mean increased productivity in America, which in turn would mean more money and fewer hours worked for American workers. I mean, it had always been that way in this country. So the rationale behind that belief was really simple. With increased technology, companies would be able to produce more and be more efficient on a per-worker basis. So their revenues would soar, their profits would be passed along to their workers who'd be making more and working fewer hours. And that's why back in 1966, everyone thought that by the year 2000, America would be the leisure society. They thought that our biggest worries would be how to use all of our time off, where to go on our many vacations, what sort of intellectual and artistic pursuits the middle class would choose to explore in the 21st century. Are we going to write poetry? Are we going to do music? But that logic all hinged on the top marginal income tax rate remaining at 70%, where it was in 1966. After CEOs had earned their first million or two, they started hitting that top tax bracket, and they simply stopped taking more pay. I mean, who wants to pay 70% income tax? Which is why for about 50 years, CEOs earned about 30 times what their average workers earned, and no more. That high income tax rate encouraged CEOs to keep money in their businesses, to invest in new technology, to pay their workers more, to hire new workers so their businesses could expand. And as businesses became more profitable, thanks to investments in automation and technology, workers saw more of those profits. They were shared with the employees. And they saw their standard of living and their leisure time go up. And Time magazine back in 1966 assumed that that trend was going to continue right through to the beginning of the 21st century. how wrong they were. They did not see Ronald Reagan coming. Reagan came along, 1980s, slashed income taxes, and everything changed. The idea of the leisure society by the year 2000, totally blown up. In 1981, Ronald Reagan introduced his Economic Recovery Tax Act, which cut the top marginal income tax rate from 70 to 50%, cut estate taxes for wealthy people and businesses, and slashed corporate profit and capital gains taxes. And just a few years later, Reagan again lowered the top income tax rate to 28%, a level that hadn't been seen since the early 1920s. And that low tax rate was, by the way, blamed by many economists for causing the bubble that led to the Great Depression. So how did the Reagan tax cuts doom today's working class Americans' opportunity for life, the life of leisure that Time magazine was foreseen? When that Time article came out in 1966, working people's wages had stayed even with productivity levels since 1900. So people thought back then if productivity continued to rise, which was likely thanks to increases in automation and technology and computers, wages would rise. Thanks to Reagan, though, businesses did become more profitable, but there was less of an incentive to share the wealth. Because of historically low top income tax rates, CEOs pulled profits out of their companies and filled their Swiss bank accounts, all at the expense of working class Americans. So all these new profits that were created by automation, technology, from the 1980s to today, 32 years of this stuff, 33 years of it. This was supposed to be shared with working people, giving us all higher paychecks and more time off. It instead went to the wealthy elite. Productivity continued to rise, but for the first time, wages stalled, and they've been stalled since 1980. Worker productivity continued to increase thanks to constant improvements in technology, but wages stayed flat. Working people's paychecks didn't increase, and neither did their time off. Back in the 50s, the average American worked 42 hours a week. Now, the average American working manufacturing is working around 40 hours a week. And even though productivity has increased 400% since 1950, have wages gone up 400%? Nope, they've actually gone down. We should be able to work 10 hours a week right now and make the same pay that we were making in 1950, right?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
The Leisure Society was doomed the minute Ronald Reagan stepped into office, and we need to undo that by rolling back the Reagan tax cuts and Reaganomics.